Then that's fine. That's a signal. Got it. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started tonight. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to welcome you to the September 2021 UME Preparatory Academy Board Meeting. It's a blessing to be with you again. This is our first time for this board not being on Zoom. So this is our first live only meeting. So for us, this is new territory. I guess we're used to the other environment where we have to be more nimble. So maybe this is old school. But thank you for being here tonight. It's always good to gather together again to talk about important things like what we get to do here at UME. So I'd just like to ask if there'd be somebody willing to open our meeting tonight with the word of prayer. Anybody willing to do that?
I'll pray.
Thanks, Jeff.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today and we're just so grateful, first of all, that we have such a great school to be here to talk about. And we just want to thank you for the blessing of that. We just want to also praise your name for the people that you've sent to be in charge and to be the leaders for the school. We just want to continue asking that you keep your hand on the guidance for the choices that they make and for the support that they need. That we can be that support for them. And we just want to ask that this meeting goes well, that we are being within your wisdom when we make decisions and when we discuss things. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.
All right, well, as has become our custom, we're going to do a roll call here tonight. So I'll just go ahead and call out your name. Lisa Baker.
Here.
Craig Burleson. Here. Susan Davis.
Here.
Blake Flickner. Here. David Howard. Here. Jolene McBain.
Here.
Jennifer Core.
Here.
Chris Stewart's here. Look at that. I love that. That was good. Leslie Todd.
Here.
Jessica Zambrano.
Here.
Excellent. Okay, well, we definitely have a quorum. Everyone is fully present. So that's a good thing. The next thing on the agenda is the agenda topic comments. So based upon having read the agenda, is there anything that you would have to add or questions about the agenda? All right, we'll just move on then. I am pretty certain, having checked the roster just a moment ago, that there are no general public comments, but are there any general public comments that will be made tonight? All right, thank you. All right, well, we'll move on to the next item here on the agenda. Number 4 is the acceptance of the board minutes. So in the Google Drive for tonight's meeting, you saw the meeting minutes from the August 24th, 2021 board meeting. So I would just ask you if there are any questions or additions, clarifications, any corrections there for those minutes from last month. All right. With that being said, could I entertain a motion for approving last month's minutes, the August 24, 2021 board minutes?
I move we accept the August 24 minutes as.
And a second?
Second.
All right, Jenna. All right, all in favor of approving the August 24, 2021 board minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Very good. Well, we've covered 40 minutes of the agenda. That's a 10-fold speed rate. I'm just trying to. This rate will be done in 5. All right, next, here on number 5, we're going to move into the financial section of our board meeting where we evaluate how UME Preparatory Academy is achieving cost containment. And there are several points there for Mr. Gene Zhu.
Good evening, board. Good evening, staff here. In your packet, we provide you with our normal financial dashboard. We're going to start with that, and feel free to ask a question anytime. And if you have questions on the general financial statement, feel free to stop me. But you can see we're doing very, very well. We ended the year, again, those are preliminary numbers. Myself and my CPAs are looking through the general ledger details and coming through all those testing areas, basically preparing for the audit, which is going to be starting in 2 weeks. This is probably the first year we start the audit so quickly, as soon as we get the books closed. We ended August 31st with $1.78 million surplus. And if we add back the depreciation and the amortization expense, we're a little over $2.3 million surplus for the last fiscal year. Having said that, we still continue to work through the books, and we might have some accrual to do for the August payroll and the August activities. But overall, we are performing extraordinarily well for last fiscal year. We ended the year with a little bit over 200 days cash on hand. If you just have a contrast, so the 200 days, basically you're talking about somewhere around about almost 7 months of operating expenditure. So we're doing well on the admin ratio. We're at 13% compared to our benchmark at 15. We really don't have any student to staff ratio issues there, which is one of the charter school first reading indicators. Our current ratio is 11.32. That simply means every dollar we borrowed as far as the long-term and the short-term debt, we have about $11 to cover, so which is outstanding. Last year we ended the 1377. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The attendance year today versus actual, I am actually giving you the current year numbers because it would not be relevant if I give you May 31st, 2021 number. So this is a fresh new number for this school year. I just want to make a note. So we have an attendance at 1377, and we actually budgeted 1673. If you remember back then when you approved the budget. So I will have some comments on that as we go in through the financial. We ended the year with 2.36 times debt service coverage ratio. That compared to the bond covenant of 1.1, we're basically 2.36 times better than what the bond document required us. So normally on the footnote as well as the accomplishment section, I will highlight only the updated the bullet points. So anything that's not highlighting both letters are the one we already discussed previously, but we just gonna leave them there. And anything new I added to it in this particular report, I will highlight them. So on the left bottom corner, you see a FSP hold harmless settle up amount. TA is still working through that number right now, but I just look at it before the meeting, it's still sitting on $1.3 million. What does that mean? That means we're getting $1.3 million extra dollars from the state for the last year's missing students that we anticipated. Because TA basically said it's not your fault. You're a growing school. You anticipate to have, let's say, 10% growth, but because of COVID, you did not have the 10% growth. I'm gonna still give you 10% anticipated revenue to make you a whole. So that's why the hold harmless was designed for. So as of today, we are anticipating to receive a $1.3 million extra dollars from the state on our September 25th, 24, right? Friday is 24. 24. Normally, the payments lands on the 25th, but since 25th is Saturday, so we're gonna get paid on the 24th. So that's a great news for the board and for the operations.
Question on that, are there any restrictions on how that money can be used versus it's just settled
No,
up?
not at all. It's all FSP money, meaning that's foundational school program. That's basically state dollar that they owe us. It's unrestricted. We can spend whatever the board decide to and board and management decide to spend. Then we also have we also mentioned it to you, we have a preliminary charter first reading based on the 2019-2020 audit, which is last year's audit. We got a superior. The reason I still kept that one as a bold letter because we are required as a board to hold a public meeting just for the public to hear your charter first reading for the consecutive 2 years in a row, and also explain any of the board and the management, key management team members pay and earnings. So I will be preparing all the documents for the board to have the meeting. We normally will host that meeting right in front of your board meeting, so we don't have to have two physical separate meetings. We will schedule that probably possibly in if not in October, but definitely in November's meeting, because we still have not gotten TS official notification on the reading yet. Right now, still sitting in the preliminary stage. Any questions on the dashboard before I walk into the financial reports? One thing I want to make you bring your attention is we also provide you with a cash account balance report. That's the entire year's balance in front of you by month. As you can see, we ended a little bit over $5.6 million cash in the bank, in our bank accounts. Then on the very left bottom corner, I also give you what was the last year, the same time we had was $4.1 million. There's a $1.5 million increase in your cash account, which is extraordinary. We're going to the financial report. I normally don't go into each school, but if you do have questions on each campus, Dallas and Duncanville, feel free to walk into it. Now I will provide information as much as I know. On the general consolidated income statement, as you can see, for the year ended August 31st, 2021, we brought in $13.26 million revenue. In that, it's $11.8 million are FSP funds. And we have another federal and local revenues there. And the one note make you aware is the $592,000 local revenue. The big chunk of that is really the winter storm insurance proceeds that you can see also on the corresponding expenditure line item, which is on the function 51. That's where the expenditure going out the door. So that's why you see a huge variance there. So what happened to our facility operating expenditure? That $500,000, majority of that are really the payout to the contractors that are handling all the winter storm activities.
Does this income include settle up? I'm guessing not, right?
No, we still have not settled up yet. We still have a final settle up, right? Yes.
We haven't received anything for fixtures, loss of any fixtures. We're months away from being finished.
Okay. And I was also asking about the FSP settle up.
Oh, the FSP settlement, so it included
No, yeah.
1.3, Gene, or not?
No,
No, it did not.
One question I had was just in reference to something, I think from last month, you talked about the insurance payment perhaps going through mediation perhaps.
Well, we were working with a mediator, but I haven't been able to get hold of her in about 3 weeks. So I don't know what happened to her. I don't know. We're still working though. There's all of the wood doors on the bottom floor. We should have been able to claim those and the insurance is denying those. So the construction crew that we were working with is still working on that. And then Felicia Davis, operations director, and I started working through finally all of the loss of items, curriculum, furniture. So we still have all of that left.
Again, like I mentioned earlier, that settle up fund still in the work with TA. What they try to do is compare your settle up with your asset two funds to see which one's greater. And if your FSP is greater than your asset two fund, there's possibility, and not possibility, but they will subtract your asset two fund from your FSP payment. So, states always try to get some money in their coffer as well. So they basically say if you have, let's say if you have $1.5 million settle up, but you're getting assets two money for $500,000, then they only give you $1 million for your FSP settle up. So we're still monitoring the situation until you get paid, everything can be changed. So, and I even reach out to the person that calculates this very sophisticated calculation. She basically told me, Gene, I cannot answer the question. I don't know how to. And I also requested for access to state data, and she said she will see what she can do. I want to see how they calculate it, because it changes drastically from week to week. Yeah.
Don't you think we'll end up getting at least about $1 million though?
We're probably going to get close to 1.3, but I just don't know exactly how much.
I was going to ask, so you're saying the SR2 of 243,000 might be,
Subtracted from it.
the
Yeah.
1.3?
Yeah. But I was also told that 1.3 already reflects that calculation.
Okay.
So I don't know which one's right. Yeah. But again, even that let's just say we're getting lesser amount, at least it's going to be close to $1 million. Yeah. I just want to make sure you guys understand there's fresh money. I mean, there's a settle up money coming, and there's also fresh money coming to the door on the 25th. Remember, you guys are still on the so-called class 5 accelerated payment schedule, meaning you will be getting 22% of your money upfront in September. Then you get another 18% in October. Then you get another 22 plus 18. That's 49, 40, about 49%, right? Yeah. 40, right? Then you get another 9% in November. So your total, you're going to be getting your 49% of your entire year allocation in 3 months. Just like we always do. The last 2 years we've been on that schedule. That's basically an incentive for a growing school that TA created law. MTA didn't create it, but lawmaker created law back probably close to 5, if not 6 years ago.
I just want to mention one thing, Jean.
Because we've talked about this before about it being fairly common to have a loss in our child nutrition area that is food services 35. And Felicia's not here tonight for me to brag on, but this is the first year in many years that we have ended in the black. So
Great work.
yeah, she's working super hard to get that, to figure out exactly what was happening and make a lot of corrections. So very, very proud of her.
Yeah, this is one of the areas there's not many charter schools can do that. I mean, we normally will have to use our either local money or state money to subsidize the child nutrition program, primarily caused by lack of staff, manpower and the support, and also the knowledge of how to run the child nutrition program. Most of the kids are, they will order, but they may not necessarily pick up their lunch or eat their lunch. And that costs some waste there. And the reimbursement part is also sophisticated. You got the breakfast piece and the lunch piece. You have to submit all the data separately to the state and the agriculture department. And it's a difficult program to run. I really don't know many schools can run surplus or even break even, except the only school I know is Arlington Classics. They are running surplus every month. And and they also offer the support to us, right? I talk to our staff.
I'm thankful because they did meet with Felicia and helped her to really dig into what was going on. So they were very kind to help us out.
Yeah, thank you. And we ended the year with a little bit over $11.5 million expenditure. As you're going through the functional expenditure, those numbers will change as we go through our year-end preparation for the audit. And our goal is to make sure the expenditure allocated properly into each functional expenditure. At the same time, also be thoughtful on our charter first administrative ratio calculation. That means we need to monitor the function 41 expenditure, make sure it's, we can allocate the expenditure out of function 41 instead of cap them in there, because the more you have in the function 41, the larger your percentage will be on your admin ratio. So once you reach 1,000 students and more, say it's very tight on your admin ratio. They basically think you should have a scale of autonomy. You should have a less staff to take care of more kids, rather than when you were small, they kind of give you a discount on that. When you were 500 kids at school, they tend to let you have more staff versus you are getting bigger. And that was also part of our audit preparation and going through each function, make sure we reallocate them correctly and appropriately.
So I have a question on 11 with the instruction. Was that additional amount we went over because of buying new materials because of the winter storm?
Some of it involves some material replacement, the majority of our personnel.
Oh, it's right. Instructions
Yeah.
personnel.
Yeah.
Because of the overtime and working and all that.
Overtime, and also then some of the positions that we receiving, if you look at your budget, we've only budgeted $11.4 million revenue, but we receive almost $2 million more on the revenue alone. What does that tell you? That tells you have a fantastic enrollment and attendance record, and that also requires manpower. So at that time, we did not budget that many positions based on the enrollment we had back then. Then you had the increased enrollment, then that requires more staffing. So that's one piece of it. Again, that's why we always provide you with a supplemental information at the bottom. You can see the payroll, professional service, so forth, because it's very difficult for you to understand what is in function 11. Well, in function 11, we do have a payroll, we have supply, we have contractual service, we have everything that's on the bottom of the report. So in each functional expense. So if you look at the overall, we're doing fairly well. We only have less than $250,000 overage on our payroll. And then we have a large saving on contract service. What does that mean? Normally it's a exchange. If you have more staff, you use less contractual service. If you're saving money on staffing, you most likely will increase your professional service, contracted professional service. They kind of offset each other.
So where's Mansfield on here?
Mansfield is not on this current financial yet. This is for last school year. We're still reporting to you the last fiscal year. New fiscal year starts September 1st.
Okay.
Yeah.
A quick question on the debt service. I mean, it looks like it was over budget. Just curious Is there any reason why?
It's probably an error on my side. I just didn't budget enough, I guess. Okay. Yeah, that's the equivalent of about one month of our debt service. Yeah, I don't know, some reason, maybe, you know, the first couple of years, we had some capitalized interest. That means we pay a lot less than we should have because we try to increase our cash position.
Okay.
So that I may have when we calculate, I may have missed 1 month as far as how many months I should pay, should budget in this fiscal year.
Item number 23, school leadership, and item number 36. Those two are percentage-wise are over, you know, why are those out?
If you remember, we used to have a function 21. I no longer use function 21. Last year, when we budgeted school leadership, we consolidated all the position into function 23 only. So again, like I made a comment on function 11, same thing happened there. The more students, and it required a more staffing, and that's reason. Also, the reason I eliminated 21 is because 21 function was calculated against our admin ratio. The 21 and the 41 are on the numerator. So to calculate for the state to calculate our admin ratio. So I really feel more I feel comfortable to having all the staff, campus and the school leadership to classify it into the function 23, which is not part of the calculation.
What about 36?
36, I have to look into it, get back to you, because we budgeted fairly conservatively on all the extra curriculum and all, you know.
That's athletics and a lot of other things to go.
Yeah, I thought at that time we would budget, we thought the COVID was still in the play. We did not budget enough, and we probably had more activities and the uniforms and all the athletic activities are coded to that particular function. I don't have a detail right off my fingertips. Yeah.
Community service 61.
61s are all the staffing and the effort we made to have a community involvement. For 504, a meeting with parents and anybody that's anybody's responsibility in this area, we code it with this line. And sometimes we also have a student recruitment coded in this line. Yeah. The printing costs and all the
So a lot of the marketing.
marketing stuff,
that
yeah.
we've done go under there, which we did spend quite a bit of money.
It's sometimes confusing because the 61 and 81 kind of work side by side, but 81 is more like developing more revenue, fundraising, and type thing, versus the community service are more geared toward the parents and students.
That doesn't include anything for the Mansfield campus,
It
right?
did. I mean, if we've already spent it out of our advertising budget, our
Would
marketing
that
budget,
be-
yes,
If we don't have the budget for the Mansfield campus yet,
right.
why would we be using money?
Well, we've already paid the bills, right? So it has to be recorded.
The campus didn't exist yet,
Right. When we
so
did.
we
that,
were advertising for it.
Yes.
Yeah, at that time, we didn't have a campus number yet. Yet the expenditure occurred on this financial.
So we haven't gotten paid for Mansfield students yet. Is
Uh,
that how,
you will be getting paid this Friday,
but not on here?
not on this financial.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's where the,
Yeah.
in my mind, like, trying to figure it out.
correct.
Right,
Yeah,
I got you.
yes, you haven't gotten paid yet. Yeah.
So we spent money getting ready,
Right,
all of the things we had to do,
right,
but we haven't received any money yet.
right. It ends on the 31st of August.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And we only, it's one charter. We still have just one charter, multiple campuses.
Mhm.
Yeah. So next month, you're gonna see a financial on Mansfield. There's a separate tab for that. Any questions on the consolidated income statement?
The number 31 for the counseling and stuff, is that, where does the, what is that we're getting for the help for, COVID? What is that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So that is what we just saw on the dashboard. Right?
ESSER money?
Yes, or is that separate than what we're talking about with the other?
On dashboard,
So the dashboard, so if we go into, on that bottom left-hand corner, is that separate than the ESSER money?
The ESSER money's gonna be up there in the revenue.
that's the money, so it's also in the footnote. If you can see the ESSER 3 grant allocation, almost $1 million. Then the ESSER 2,
That's the same thing as the TEA.
no,
No,
ESSER funds are a federal fund.
right,
It's a separate, an additional fund from the
okay.
from the federal government, but they are passing through TA for the grant management piece of it.
So does that go into our line 31? For the guidance, counseling and evaluation?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It's going through multiple functional expenditures.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
There's so many,
Yeah.
yes, not,
Acronyms.
thank you, acronyms.
Yeah. It's
I have a
usually,
cheat sheet in my drawer.
Yeah.
oh yeah, not only we have,
You're good with that.
Yeah, I know.
I made it the first year.
and not only we have to memorize all the acronym, we also have a 3-digit fund code that constantly updating through TA system. So we have to memorize those two and with different treatment. Then at the same time, translate all that into our accounting system. So when we pay bill or when we make payroll, they're all aligned with what we expected. And the ESSER money are not a disbursement like FSP will get paid every month, but those funds you have to draw down. You have to spend the money first and turn around, justify, then draw them down.
Okay,
So that we don't have that cash flow issue. We can front load expenditure, then turn around, draw them down, whether it's on a monthly basis or quarterly basis. But for lots of schools don't have this kind of cash flow luxury that we have. You know, we have a $5+ million in the bank already. And for us to spend, let's just say $100,000 a month, it would not be a stress for us at all. So we can always spend the money. And again, we're required to spend money, then draw them down afterwards. On ESSER 2, ESSER 3, and any other regular title program, regular federal program, it's always been designed that way. You spend money first, then you draw down.
and remind me, are we supposed to spend 100% of that? Is that
No,
the- Yeah, we have to spend it this year?
not 1 year,
Not
3
one.
years.
3 years.
Okay.
ESSER 2 is designed for 2 years, ESSER 3 designed for 3 years.
Where's that ESSER money showing up on the income side?
We have not started yet. We're starting in September.
Okay,
Yes. Yeah, we will have a separate line for you starting September financial.
Gene, back on the dashboard, area of concern, the attendance year to date versus budget. What were your thoughts about that?
Again, like we expressed to the board, we're not alone. We've seen this systematic, the entire charter school and including some of the local district as well, suffering the great change on their attendance and the enrollment. The TA is constantly talking to superintendents. I mean, they have a weekly call. They try to figure out what the next step is going to be. But in the meantime, I think they're starting opening door a little bit wider on the virtual learning. They start out with only 20 days or something like that, only for the COVID-related students. Now they're opening the door to a much broader student group. I don't know if that's going to help. I'm not an instructional expert, but I know it's gonna help, or it's not gonna even make things worse because you also have a problem with recruiting teachers now. Some teacher basically said, I can't teach both, I cannot do both, or the kids are behind. Now, if we don't get them to the school, they're gonna be further behind. And but my comment on that is, how are we gonna get paid? Are we gonna get paid only if the kids come through the door, sit on the chair, or are we gonna also get paid for the student had a health issue that's out of our control? And how much the school has to do to accommodate the instructional learning activities? I don't know the answer, but as we monitoring them through the weekly calls, we learn more. One other thing I want to make you aware is we will have to go to the board before end of November for you to amend the budget. The reason we want to wait until the last minute is because TA has not gotten our first 6 weeks report yet. They didn't even know how many kids we have. They do not know because we're not obligated to report them a daily attendance report or daily enrollment report. They don't have data, and they don't have our data. They don't have anybody's data. So that's probably a major part of TA not having the final decision on what to do with the state funding yet. The money we've been discussing as purely last year's money. I have not even walked into this year's territory yet because I don't know. If you would ask me how much we're gonna get, I still don't know. We just have a budget, which now I call the bogus budget. This budget we made back in June is a way far apart. You're talking about, we're looking at 300 kids. You're literally looking at $3 million difference between the budget you approved versus the reality. That's just on the revenue part. Again, the Kayla is not just gonna go spend whatever you authorize her to spend, of course not. If she has less kids, that means she has less staff. So accordingly, so we don't know, I don't even know the September number yet. I only know payroll because I look at it every time we have a payroll. I don't even know what September looked like. But again, one thing I want to comfort the board is you are in the probably the most prestige financial shape than most of my clients. I have 25 charter schools I'm managing. So you're the one of them I don't really have to worry at all. It's you got a great cash position and you will be getting somewhere close to probably around about $3 million on this Friday. So you have a very strong cash flow. And the only thing we need to be cautious about is just make sure we right size ourselves. We have 1377 kids, then we have adequate staff to support this 1377, not the 1673. That's yeah.
Yeah, so the bottom line is we have to do a budget amendment to budget to the actual number of students we have instead of our projected number. We do have the first payroll for the new payroll. We usually, last year, we were running about $370,000 a month, and the new payroll, which included all of our new staff and the raises, was around $435,000 for our first payout. So we're running about $74,000 a month then. I mean, it looks like that's what it's gonna be. So but as we do the amendment, we'll take all of that into consideration, Gene knows all of that.
You're looking at that for November, possibly November.
We should have agenda on November because the reason I say that at that time we wouldn't know what TA's real number based on our attendance look like. Again, even the real number, I say real number, it is a real number, but those numbers still not going to be true number for the year because we know the first few weeks are brutal as far as how few kids walk through the door. And as all the enrollment and attendance records start creeping up, so we're probably going to see some increase along the way. So again, TA only adjusts your payment every 6 weeks when they see the fresh data. Nothing in between. Everything between the 6 weeks are just a regular calculation. There's no adjustments there. So, and also another reason we need to amend the budget, because I think TA is going to give a waiver to several charter school first reading indicators. But one of them measuring your projected revenue based on your enrollment versus your actual revenue you're going to end it 12 months later. So you have to stay within 10% range. So I strongly believe the TA is going to give a waiver on that indicator, because right now everybody's guess, right? We can't. There's no way you can budget, because you don't know. You cannot control COVID. You cannot control the parents' desire to not having their kids in the school system. So those are challenges we are facing right now. But again, I don't see. I mean, we're doing well. I mean, last year, based on TA's calculation, based on the credit they gave to us, it was based on the 1378 ADA. So now we are right at that number right now. So if nothing happens, we'll be operating on the assumption based on last year's numbers, last year's revenue, which with about $700,000 more annualized number for the payroll, I think for the board, you should not feel pressure because that much cash you have, that you run almost $2.3 million surplus last year.
Or comments?
Any comments, questions?
Thank you, Gene. And I'll just say that you've given us a positive report here, but it's a testimony to you and all of you sitting here in this room that work for you, that we have these numbers where they are. It's financial responsibility, it's good stewardship, it's hard work, it's detailed work, tedious work, but important to these results. Thank you. And I would just say, for the board's behalf, this is a big deal. I've looked at past year's numbers even before I was on the board, and this is a really big deal. This is a tremendous change. So,
Sure.
One thing I want to kudos you guys is it's not just the work overnight. It's not something we just feel we should feel lucky about. It's a prudent approach. It's your academic program really attracted the students and the parents here. Without their support, and there's really nothing to manage. I always tell people I'm fortunate to manage your finance, but it's not me doing. It's the day in, day out, the staff, the management team that interact with parents. Because the reason there's only few schools received this final setup as a positive number is because you were anticipating a growth based on your last 3 years tracking record. That's what TA based on. But they don't have any projection numbers. All they had was history number. When they see history number from this going up every year, then they will say, okay, then you have another trajectory going up. That's where the spread, where the difference comes from. That's where the $1.3 million was calculated based on last 3 years analysis that TA did 12 months ago.
thank you. All right, so I think that moves us to a place of approving this month's financial statements, August 2021 financial statements. So someone move that we approve those, please.
Move that we approve the 2021 financial.
I second that.
Very good, thank you. Motion and a second. All in favor of approving the financials, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, motion passes. Very good. As always, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Mrs. Smith.
Okay, before we talk about enrollment, I just wanted to mention that we have a couple of new people back there in the room, and I didn't want to go without recognizing them. Misty Stern, Curriculum and Instruction Assistant Superintendent, I think you guys have met her. Everybody knows Susie Bromers, high school. Joni Holder, y'all know Joni. And our two brand new people, Stacy Witherspoon is our new principal at our Mansfield campus. Yay! And Andrea Evans, the new principal at our Duncanville campus. And then Shannon's sitting over here today, but Shannon's here, Director of our Federal and State Programming, and Katie Shaw is a great second grade teacher. So I just want to make sure you met the new people before we go on. And talking about enrollment, I just want all of you guys to know that we are not alone in our enrollment, our little bit of enrollment struggle with COVID. All of you know Dr. C, he has been with us more than once, and he actually put data together about enrollment for charter schools for this year. And charter schools have increased every year enrollment since the beginning of charter schools in Texas. And for the very first time in the last year and a half, there's been a drop in enrollment. And I remember talking to Gene a couple of weeks ago, and I was concerned about enrollment, and he said, did all of you superintendents get together last night and talk about your concern? Because that's all I'm hearing. And I was like, well, no, but we're all thinking the same thing. And if anybody is interested, he has a lot of data in this report. If you're interested in looking at it, you can see where we are. It is a concern, but we're not alone. So I don't know if that makes you feel any better or not. Okay, let's look at our own enrollment. The Dallas campus is on the top, and this is the same report that Carolyn has produced for us in the past. So hopefully you're used to looking at this, but I'm going to ask you to look at the third column from the fourth from the right side where it says current roster, because that is our actual enrollment for this school year. So current roster 21-22. If you want to compare to where we were last year, you can go to the column that's near the left side of the page that says 2021 enrollment. That's actual enrollment from last year. So you can see on the Dallas campus, we are full at every single grade level and over by, we can go over per section, one student per section. So we are over in almost every grade level. We are 2 under for 4th grade, 4 under for 5th grade, and then 10th grade is not full. But besides that, every single grade is full, and we right now have an enrollment of 1,117 for the elementary and secondary campuses. Last year we ended at 1031. That's the number you're going to see at the bottom of that 2021 enrollment column. Any questions about the Dallas?
Is there a copy of it, or do I need to write it all?
We don't. No.
Okay.
If you get a copy of it.
Usually can't read it. 1 second.
Okay.
So I have one
Yes.
question. On the approved transfers from Duncanville, in 7th grade, there's, that's where I would assume we'd see the greatest transfers from Duncanville.
Right. There are, I don't think we count those as transfers because
They just roll.
yes, because they roll into this campus. They're not actually transferring from the other campus. So it doesn't really tell us how many actually came from the Duncanville campus, which that would be a good number to know what the actual number of students were that came from that campus to this campus.
31 in 6th grade at Duncanville last year. seventh grade.
Just, it's hard to tell if all 31 of those came or, you know,
6 to 7, you go from 80, because it goes diagonal, right? You go 83 to 108.
yes, that's
So
true.
there's
Because you're gonna,
25 difference there. So between the two campuses,
Could it be the act?
6,
There's 28 more ninth graders in Dallas this year than there were sixth graders in Dallas and Duncanville.
But maybe we can look at the actually return on the Duncanville on the 6th graders, the intent to return versus actual return. Because it wouldn't have returned to 6th grade in Duncanville, right? It would return here. That would be a good thing.
so it says returning students per intent to return for 6th grade. Let me make sure I'm looking. Yeah, that's Duncanville. It says 24. So that means that 24 of those 7th graders of the 10,
But 22 actually returned. So.
Yeah.
So maybe,
so they rolled up. 22.
actually
Yes.
returned, it should be 22.
Yeah. 22 rolled.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good retention.
yeah, but then it says approved transfers to Dallas, 6th grade is only 2. That's confusing.
This is confusing.
I take into account retentions. 6th grade to 6th grade.
Maybe that was like within the year sometime.
Yeah, the transfer.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay, any other questions on the Dallas enrollment? You're good?
Just say that it'd be good to have that column in there that moving forward. How many, you know, that enroll.
Yeah, I think Susan's right, though. I think that it is the actually returned column on the Duncanville campus. The 22 would be the ones that came to the Dallas campus from Duncanville. So I think that is the column that shows us that it's on the Duncanville page.
So we have a lot on the waiting list for 6th or 7th through 9th.
Yeah, that's why we need to open that new middle school building down there.
Yeah, that wasn't on our agenda.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I was sad by that because I was hoping it was on our agenda.
I think it's just. Okay, if you look at Duncanville, we're really close to where we were last year at Duncanville. So you're gonna see our enrollment, we ended at 199 last year. And this year, current roster, 21-22 is 206. And yeah, I mean, we made a little, 7, we gained 7.
Progress.
You know, you can see it's I've spoken about this over and over at our board meetings, is that we've always struggled at Duncanville with filling 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and sometimes just 3rd, 4th. It's just been a constant issue there, and somehow we have to kind of figure that out. We're losing them between 2nd and 3rd grade. So that's just been really, since the school has been open.
Kind of exit surveys.
We do.
non-return.
We do an exit survey for everybody who will fill it out.
Yes. Complete.
Yeah.
No
It's
trend, nothing
it's
in there.
very random. There's nothing that I could find a pattern to. You know, we moved, got transferred, we decided to homeschool, we decided to go to our local school down the street. It's much more convenient. So it's just really varied. And it really is the same. It's always been the same on all campuses. It's all varied. So hard to see a pattern. But yes, we do request an exit survey for every family. We do exit interviews. Carolyn Ignatz does that. If she will request a survey, if she doesn't get one, then she'll call them and ask for an exit interview. And sometimes principals have done that. I know Shannon has talked to people when they've left. Joni talks, Susie talks, families, you know, why are you leaving? Is there anything that we can do for you? So it just, those have been more informal. The formal interviews are through Carolyn. Other questions about Duncanville? Okay. In Mansfield, we don't have anything to compare to from last year. We are at 62 right now, and you can see that KM1, I shared all of this with you guys last time. KM1 are really close to full, and for some reason, you know, we struggle with going third grade at Duncanville, but we have more third graders on the Mansfield campus, so I don't know how to figure that out. So those are our numbers right now for our Mansfield campus.
The maximum capacity is there is 2 sections.
2 sections per grade level. It's the exact same as Duncanville.
So the offers for enrollment waiting confirmation, is that just because it just happened to be a new one that hit the
Yes.
report?
So it's just in the process right now. And so they get an offer and they have a certain amount of time to respond. So they're in that window. She hasn't heard back from them yet. Stacey.
So like every single family that has come in and actually visited with us has enrolled their student. So my people are like more than willing to canvass, to make phone calls. We just need like who to call. Literally every single person who's walked in has said, oh, we want our kids here. So that's been exciting. We've enrolled actually in the last probably 2 or 3 weeks, about 7 new students. So
And some of those were walking in off the street. A couple of families just came in off the street because they saw that the school was open. I hope that we'll get a chance to go over there. It's just the sweetest environment. It's such a great staff and they're working really, really hard. And so I shared this before with you guys. We really got a late start in that whole enrollment process. But things are going really well on all the campuses. But Stacy's group is all new except just 2, 3 teachers we sent from this campus. But they're doing such a phenomenal job. And I think the family seems super happy. So I think word of mouth, it's going to happen. It's going to spread. And I feel confident that the enrollment will improve. But a lot of times, once people get settled and the school year gets started, they really don't want to make a change. And so we may not see a real difference until next school year. And that I'm just being honest, that I don't think we may see some additions, but it's not going to be huge because people are usually going to be committed unless it's just going very poorly where they are. And then they'll make a change.
What about the kind of training of the UME model and getting everybody, since there's so many new folks there, how's that going?
Yeah.
What's being done to help?
It's good. Well, we meet every single week. Misty meets with the principals one week, I meet the next week. So we're constantly talking, training. I feel like Stacy and Andrea have gotten a great induction into UME and what we're all about and the whole philosophy. And the teachers are working in what we call PLCs, professional learning communities. Stacy's people are a part of the Dallas professional learning community. So they're integrating with those teachers and learning what those teachers are doing on this campus, or they will be. We haven't really started our meetings yet, but that's the plan. They got a whole week of UME indoctrination and in-service. And it's just, plus we did send and 3 really great teachers over there who have taught for us. So they know what we're all about. I feel like in our principals meetings, Stacy and Andrea have both been so open to what we're doing and how to make things happen in the same way on their campuses. And I know they're taking that back and using that at the other campuses. I mean, wouldn't you guys agree? You two are sitting back there. I mean,
I can say from an inside source that their pack, both the Mansfield pack is awesome. They're doing a great job. So I know that's helping, with families and stuff like that, getting that to the new school. So.
A super secret inside source.
yeah. Well, Duncanville Pack is really coming back too. I mean, I feel like we've got a lot of parental support and involvement, which is fantastic.
So we only have, I think it says 62 students, but we have 100 RSVPs for our grandparents' day in the morning. Whose grandparent are they bringing? I'm not sure. RSVP for them.
I mean, did we specify that it had to be the student's grandparent?
Just any grandparent.
The church is like, they're all the retired people are like, we're just gonna come in the morning and read or
So do you think they're bringing like both sets?
I'm sure. That's amazing.
Or grandparents.
It's awesome.
Not fun.
Your grandparents' day is tomorrow?
In the morning, yes.
Andrea, yours is Thursday.
I was saying, we're getting money and grandparents all at the same time.
Wow.
So grandparents have a different flow of income than parents that are still paying all the activities. I'm hoping that grandparents feel the love and the
Strategic plan.
strategic. Absolutely.
Is ours tomorrow? The Dallas campus?
Dallas hasn't been set yet.
Oh.
No, Duncanville's is Thursday, Mansfield's is tomorrow.
Ours is gonna be probably October the 11th to the 14th. That's the 14th. Oh, the 11th is no school, that's a Monday. So I think we're gonna have it on the 14th.
I think someone's grandparents are not told the protest. I think that's what someone's grandparents are told
I would
tomorrow.
like a disclaimer now that I have competition over here. I love it. We held off on Grandparents' Day because we have 530 kids. And so we were just making sure that we were being safe, inviting the elderly in with their children. So we kind of put it off a little bit.
Be careful with that elderly word, because I'm a grandparent, so I'm just saying.
Well, I'm a grandparent too, so I'm right there with you, but I'm just saying, we have our older population, so we were taking that. So we are, I think we're trying to do it the same night as our which is, we're gonna have a nightly event on October 14th, I believe is what we decided last night. Leslie probably has that written down somewhere.
Yeah, we might have told their grandparents that tomorrow was grandparents' day, so someone might need to tell their grandparents that I had the wrong day.
Well, just send them over to Mansfield.
That's okay. We'll just tell them with all the other grandparents.
Some of that 110.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Carolyn did add like a total district report for you that she has not done before, and it actually is just total numbers by grade level, so you can see district wide. And if you look at our whole entire district, we are 92% enrolled. Carolyn said, remind them of that. So that number doesn't look too bad, 92% enrolled if you look at district wide. So any questions on enrollment? Further questions? No? Okay, let's talk just a little bit about COVID because we do want to bring that up. Joni said this earlier today. We hate to kind of talk about it because I don't want to jinx anything, but so far our numbers have been so low. It's really been a little amazing. Last week, we do a weekly report. It runs Sunday to Sunday. We report on Monday. So for last week, we had one confirmed faculty case and no student cases at all.
All right.
The most we've ever had in a week is 14. We've been running 7 to 10-ish a week for a school that has 1,400 students. That's pretty good. So we are feeling like that what we are doing now is being effective. We're going to evaluate all the time as we go along. Do we need to change what we're doing? If we see our numbers going up, what do we need to do? But we still have the cleaning protocol in place. We, want to be very sensitive to how people are feeling about COVID and what needs to happen. So we are just constantly evaluating what is the right thing to do. Last week, or maybe week before last, on the superintendent's call with the commissioner, he did approve for us to quarantine siblings if we chose to do that. So up to that point, he had said no one can be quarantined except the positive case, the student or faculty member. He did approve to quarantine siblings of the positive student. I had a conversation with the principals. In that conversation last week, I said, I really feel like maybe we should do that because what we have seen happen is definitely COVID runs through the family, but we haven't seen it going through our student population. I think this week we have had 3 students that have called in and said they have it. They're on 3 different campuses. So it's pretty obvious to us that we're not spreading it within our student groups. But after our numbers have been so low, again, I rethought and I thought, if we're not seeing that spread, then I don't see the point of keeping students home. That means they're missing school and they're missing their instruction in school. So I think for right now, we're just going to leave everything exactly the way we have it. We're going to evaluate weekly. If our numbers go up, then we'll look at what we need to do to meet that need and to really get things under control. We have had parents concerned in the past about the mask being optional. I haven't heard anything from parents in the last few weeks, and I think part of that is because things seem to be going well, and it seems to be working with what we are doing. Again, the mask issue is a little complicated because Judge Jenkins, the court did side with Judge Jenkins a couple of weeks ago about the mask mandate in Dallas County. Per Joe Hoffer, our attorney, that is all tied up in appeals and court. And so that temporary injunction does not stand. So Governor Abbott's ruling does stand for the state of Texas, including Dallas County. So we've had many conversations about this, and I feel strongly that we need to follow legal advice because I don't want to go out on a limb and do something that could potentially get this school in trouble. And if you're watching the news, the Attorney General has filed a lawsuit on 8 districts. One of them, Richardson ISD, who have mandated masks. Richardson is in Dallas County, and they are getting sued. So we just need to be mindful of what our legal advice is telling us. You may also have seen that Paris ISD is one of the districts that decided they would put masks in their dress code, and they are getting sued. And Joe had told me when I asked him about that from the beginning, he was said, Kayla, that is a workaround people are going to, and that will not stand up in court. That's not going to stand up in court. And so we see what has happened, that now Paris ISD is getting sued for trying to work around the system by making that part of their dress code. So I think this would be a different conversation if we saw our numbers going up or we had large numbers of students getting sick, but that's just not the case at all. So I feel confident that we're doing the right thing, that we're following our legal advice, and our attorney is staying on top of it in the state of Texas. So that's really where we are right now.
So, Kim, I thought I saw something about an approval for remote learning.
Right, so that did not come from TEA, that's a Senate bill that was passed. And it's really restricted. There is, if you meet certain stipulations, meaning the students have to be sick, you can have a remote option. It's not required, but you can do that. With our numbers as low as they are, I know that remote is not the best thing for our students. We can tell that from the slide, the academic slide that we're dealing with now. And so I really, really do not want to open that door unless we see our numbers go up and we feel like we need to do that. The other struggle we have with the remote learning is, I know I shared this with you guys, but TEA said this year we cannot require teachers to teach both remotely and in person. So that means I have to hire a whole different set of teachers to teach remotely, which increases your budget. I wouldn't say double, but depending on the number of virtual teachers we hire, it hits your budget. So, and I don't really know where I would find them. I mean, we had such a hard time just staffing this year. I don't know where I don't know where people are finding extra teachers.
I just didn't know if maybe for the ones that do get quarantined.
Right, but you have to have a teacher per grade level. So the ones that are quarantined, you have to have a fourth grade teacher. It may be one student, you're paying that fourth grade teacher to teach.
So they won't let you do one teacher for kind of like a tutor sort of thing.
It has to be direct instruction for at least 4 hours. That's what the Senate bill says. So if you have direct instruction for 4 hours, you really can't put more than one grade level together. So then I hire another teacher for each grade level. They might be teaching one student, they might have 2 or 3.
They may not have it.
They may not have any.
Yeah.
It's very complicated. They did open the door to offer that, but I don't see how it's feasible for us right now. It's tricky.
The fact that the numbers are low is exceptionally encouraging. Great. What is it attributed to? Probably 1,000 factors we're not completely able to grasp. It's a good thing. I think it's a good thing also that we're not having to spend resources and time defending these lawsuits, distractions in the education process. All of these things are so delicate, and society is intending the state with respect to what's happening, but what's happening in this environment here is at the moment it's strong, and it's education is happening. That's encouraging.
Well, if you're following Clay Jenkins at all, he reports generally how things are going with schools. And he's been reporting for probably about a week that it's declining every day, which is probably making people in the public feel a little bit more comfortable. I kind of followed him. So maybe it's a good trend across the board. That's an encouraging.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really, there have been a lot of budget concerns across the state, but there hasn't been a lot of talk about how many actual positive COVID cases per district. So I haven't really seen a lot of information about that. At the very beginning, they were talking about it. Any other comments, questions?
Well, because we have a new nurse.
We do.
Well,
We actually have 2 new nurses.
Well, all I know is that my child has figured out that she has peppermints. So I think that she's learning that we have a really great nurse that's really nice and she gets peppermint. And I'm like, listen, I know that she's so sweet. You cannot go down the nurse. But anyway, that's a good sign. She's nice.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, and
We have two RNs working for us now. Emily Everett is on the Duncanville and the Mansfield campuses, and Lauren Thornhill is at the Dallas campus. So I have felt really good about their work and what they're doing. Okay, are we good?
Yep.
All right, we don't have an ESSER fund update tonight. I will say the hold harmless money was a very pleasant surprise when Jean called me and said, "Do you feel rich today?" I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, I think you're going to have about $1.3 million." And I said, "Okay, that's great." So no ESSER update yet. That as we work through that, we'll leave it on the agenda. And so as we work through that, we'll have updates, but no ESSER update. I think that's me.
Rest it up. Okay, very good. Okay, we'll move over to Todd.
As I reported last month, that we're really excited for PAC and all the students to be back on campus. And so they're working so hard to make sure that this year is a really engaging and exciting year. PAC had their first monthly district meeting last night, and they are diligently working the plan, engaging events for scholars and families, as well as fundraising opportunities to support our school. PAC will be hosting some fun events coming up soon for the secondary students, like the ice cream social for middle school scholars this weekend, and treats and trivia party for 9th grade also this Saturday. And they're also offering a play date opportunity coming up soon, kindergarten through 3rd grade on October 8th at Epic Park. And then also PAC is also focused on fundraising. So right now there's a big push right now. We know coming up in a couple days, the North Texas Giving Day, Thursday, September 23rd, and that's a huge annual fundraising event for the whole district. And PAC is coordinating some really great promotion efforts for that. To promote that. PAC is hosting the book fair coming up soon. That's a major PAC fundraising opportunity that will be held mid to late October for each of our 4 campuses. Each will have their own book fair. Fall Carnival, they're also working hard to plan that as a fundraising event, and it's in the planning stage right now to be held November 6th. PAC is working hard to promote UME family engagement that fosters a sense of community for all families in partnership with the parent and equity coordinators. They're preparing for Family University. That's a big deal on October 23rd next month. In addition to the events and fundraising, PAC is also coordinating volunteer recruitment efforts as well. So far, they're really excited to have approved so far 8 full volunteers for Duncanville, 13 volunteers for Mansfield, which jokingly, if there's like 60 students, then you've got 13 volunteers. That's a big deal. And 52 volunteers so far for Dallas. The numbers of volunteers will continue to increase as they work through approximately 100 more remaining applications to be processed. PAC received a great response from our first Silver Stars Grandparents Month, and they're looking forward to utilizing those eager volunteers soon in future campus activities. There's a new dance club that's really exciting in the planning stages, and they're very excited about that new endeavor. They're going to partner with parent equipping team to host some future dance club events. PAC is also currently recruiting volunteers for homecoming activities, and homecoming is on October 30th. And specifically, if anyone knows anyone who can make mums, that is a need, right?
What's a mom?
That's what we discussed last night, Mr. Rollins, that, yeah, the person who was awesome had recently moved. And so that's a big deal. With Texas football and Texas homecoming, like a mom is a must.
Cover your dress.
Yes,
Exactly.
the bigger the better.
You'll have back pain issues.
Yes. Right. Right. So I think conclusion pack is industriously working on an ambitious calendar of events this year, and they're looking forward to making this school year exciting for everyone.
Fantastic. Yeah. Does anyone know where the homecoming dance is being held?
Dance is gonna be in our auditorium, right?
Okay, excellent. And is the fall carnival like for all grades, or is that just grade school, elementary?
Well, I think we usually focus on K through 6. We've let some of the high school clubs have booths, and they have come and helped out.
Okay.
But it's really intended to be for K through 6. I'm not speaking out of turn. Is that right? Is that what y'all talked about? Okay.
Cheerleaders did face painting and hair braiding. I just know.
Yes.
You're like, I remember that.
I do, because my daughter's hair was very short at that time and she wanted it braided and they did a really good job. I was shocked. Because it was only like this long.
Well, we went to the 4th through 6th grade roller skating party. That was awesome. And Miss Holder did roller skate. And we had a great time. So it was wonderful.
So is the K through 3rd on October 8th for all campuses as well? Or is it just for Dallas?
As far as I know, it's for all campuses are invited. What day? As far as I know.
The October 8th at Epic Park?
K through 3rd.
I'm having a hard time. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
The K through 3rd, the event, is it for all campuses?
Like the play date at Epic, is it for everybody or just Dallas? So just Dallas.
Crash the party, sorry. Yeah, we're coming.
Is there a reason why homecoming is so late this year? It seems really late.
Yeah, we had a hard time scheduling homecoming. Remind me of the issues. It was,
Part of it was that we lost our sponsors for the class sponsors, who are the ones who helped prepare all this. And so we had to get that going first before we can move ahead.
So just more time.
we're a little strategic, you know, Todd tries to pick who we're playing. So that has something to do with it too.
Just may the last comment be stricken from the record.
There's more of us.
There's no record.
Trying nice conversations.
Are we able to ask questions about the back report?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay, so I'm just making sure I'm clear. So we're planning things district-wide. So campuses are also having things individually. So the ladies that are in charge of our PAC, are they able to plan things individually in addition to district-wide? Because on the calendar, it has like some district events and then it just has Dallas events. It doesn't have anything for Duncanville or for Mansfield. So I just want to make sure that as principals, we're clear about the direction that we're going, because I thought it was a combined board now and that everything was being planned district-wide. So I just need a little bit of clarification to make sure when I meet with our two PAC presidents that I'm helping to steer them in the right direction.
So this PAC meeting last night was a district-wide PAC meeting, and so the Duncanville PAC representative was there. And so the two ladies from Mansfield were there also.
So I'm more talking about
this
that,
is-
the more of activities that are
Yeah.
planned specifically for students.
Right, so there are district events like the carnival and those kinds of things. What I believe what Lisa's plan is, what Lisa and I talked about, is there's a district meeting and they'll split off into their individual PACs, Dallas, and then Mansfield and Duncanville. So your PAC can plan activities for your campus. So Duncanville PAC plans activities for their campus, Mansfield PAC plans activities for their campus. So far, the Dallas PAC has put theirs on the calendar. So for you and Stacy, I would say guide your PAC to, you can plan activities for our campus. And once they decide, we want to make sure and get them on the calendar.
And then are those calendars shared with principals?
Yes.
I asked for a hard copy. I received a hard copy, but I know Stacy doesn't have, we don't have soft copies of it. The nice color coded calendar that's my lead. Are those shared with administrators?
Yes, we can put you on them. I thought you already were. But yes, absolutely. They're talking about an internal Google Calendar that we keep at school that has all of our activities on it. So,
But that, we were here till 9 last night, and that's how we're doing it. And we do all the stuff we're doing together, meeting, and then splitting, everyone splits off. And Nadia was by herself, so she wouldn't split off somewhere by herself, home. And the other 3 Mansfield girls, my new BFFs, love them. And then our group did our thing, so.
right.
I think the Duncanville campus has a calendar, because I think I printed it.
Say for me again.
I think y'all have a calendar on a trifold. I know there's a calendar because I printed it
Yes,
off.
I've seen that calendar. They're not grade level specific events on that. I have a copy of that. I just want to make sure that as I'm helping to guide them, that I'm saying the right thing.
I think they just haven't.
Changing.
Yeah.
So, based on many different things going on, I guess. So.
Yeah, I would just guide them to plan some grade level activities.
But
And Stacy, for you, you might just want to do a school-wide something a couple of times during the year because you're small.
we did discuss that if we have a big thing that those students can't come.
Well, sure. I mean, they should. Homecoming, carnival, all of those are district events.
Like the skate party,
Oh, gosh.
like the ice cream social,
Well, I would hate to invite Mansfield and not Duncanville, so you need to think about that. Joni?
Thank you. One of the things that we did talk about last night, and I raised my hand for so long, I've forgotten what it was.
I'm sorry I didn't call it.
No, it's okay. What was the event that we did? Oh, we actually planned our spirit days, and we decided to do those at the same, around the same time, remember, to Spring Creek and Chick-fil-A, and we did all the
Okay.
campuses together, and we talked about that. There are some things that we talked about doing as a group, and then something that's like, Scott shared she was doing for the teachers for their birthdays, and she offered that up, but the other campuses said that they wanted to do their own thing. So it's kind of a mesh of those things.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. I'm not complaining.
No,
I just want to make sure that whatever is supposed to happen for students is happening. And that when I'm meeting with TAC or meeting with our parent at Clifford, because I was just like, oh, just look at the district calendar. So now that I'm clear, I'm gonna be like, so what you doing? So.
If we picked a Chick-fil-A, like, we would have our own Chick-fil-A, Mansfield would have their own, they got profits from over there, and Duncanville would have their own. So we're all doing the same thing, but at different locations, so trying to keep, some kind of a stream.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say to Sky, is that, everybody needs to have a book fair. It doesn't have to be the exact same day, but we want all 4 campuses to have a book fair. We want all 4 campuses to have Chick-fil-A Day. So we're trying to do those things, but not be too restrictive. But yes, student activities, I would just encourage them to start getting some student activities.
It's coming, don't worry.
No, don't worry.
I think you got volunteered for stuff last night.
That's perfectly fine. I'm up for it.
If y'all can come to my book fair, that would really help us out.
A book fair's not tomorrow with all those people.
I know.
All right.
This ain't our first rodeo.
Wow. I did not bring this gavel, by the way. This is not me.
We're getting close.
That's awesome. Whoever brought that, that's just funny. Awesome. All right, so Leslie, thank you. And this is great. All of this, it's so engaging. This is a lot of data, a lot of content, a lot of things happening. This brings life to the community. It's not, education is the focus, but part of education is being involved in our community and being able to interact with each other and have fun together, even as we work hard together. So this is good. So thank you, everybody. I think now we're moving into the other information section. That's where I've got a few things listed here. It's possible this won't take very long, actually. The first item on the agenda is the Texas Public Charter School Association conference. I checked with Ginger, and it looks like right now we have either virtually because people can't take the time off work, or in person, we have 7 people out of our 11 that are registered for conference, which is great, it's exciting. That means more of you holding out on us. So,
I'm supposed to travel out of town that middle day. It's just a day trip, flying to Indiana, down and back. So which is one of the reasons why I've held out.
Sure.
Is there any value to me going the first and last day of the conference? And just missing that little day? I don't want to waste funds.
Right.
Because it's expensive.
I would say yes.
Sign up for virtual.
Just do virtually.
Virtual, and you have like.
Yeah, any virtual attendance, you've got, I think, like you said, 30 days or so. If you have restrictions, if you want to do the in-person, you can split it, this middle, but you still get the hours on the other side.
Yeah.
I don't know if in-person attendees also get the benefit of the virtual.
I think they do. I think I read on the conference site that if you come in person, you will have access to the recorded sessions.
So it could be a win-win if you wanted to do that.
If you want to come in person, David, I think it's worth it for us to spend the money.
Okay. I do. I just didn't know. I want to make sure.
And please know, when I said holdouts, that was a joke. This is your volunteer time.
I felt the appropriate amount of shame. It's okay.
Sorry, not intended. But so just encourage you to do that and communicate with I believe it's Ginger. Just because that could be a way that we can get those hours in. These hours are expected of us. It's a way to knock them out, but also I can see some camaraderie for those of us who get to be there together, spend some time in different environments. So thanks for thinking about that. The next thing is the updated board module 3. And when you go to look in the Google Drive, just to kind of orient you a little bit, if you look in the folder that says governance documents, and then if you go into, it does say approved board policies, but there's a subfolder there. It says draft board policy group 3 students. And inside of that, it's the policies that we're now making available to all of you, that the governance committee is putting in front of you for the next month. Governance committee, Jenna and Chris and I and Mrs. Smith have looked at these. And so between now and next month, they're up there for you to review. There's 38 of them, so it's only 30 days in a month. So maybe 1.5 a day. You can knock these babies out. Some are short, some are like War and Peace.
I feel like we've offered that on numerous occasions, and I don't know that anybody's actually like taken the time to read them in their spare time.
Yeah, whenever there's something that
But you can.
when it's less likely for people to do, pitch it in a positive tone of voice. Yeah, but
Wait, I feel like some of you are holding out on some discussion.
but they're available to you there. We'll vote on these next month. So board of directors, governance documents, it's under the approved board policy section, which is where we'll change the folder to take away the word draft once they're finalized. But that's where you can go look at those. So I would encourage you to do so. There's a lot of things in there, all about students and things that should be happening or shouldn't be happening. So fun reading, actually.
And that was my mistake. I put it as an action item on the agenda. It's not an action item tonight. You're not voting tonight.
So, I mean, is there, because what I noticed in these is that obviously there are a few, but there's no way for us to make like a comment if we see something. So.
Yeah, so, oh, right, because you don't have authority to access. So what I would say, I don't know if we want to change that or would everyone like the ability, because if we give you the ability to make comments, then you could add comments where you could make suggestions. You just use the suggestion function, which is actually very useful, because then Mrs. Smith can just say accept or reject if it's not something she and the committee feels comfortable changing. What,
Yeah.
what do you think? Does everybody feel? All right, I see lots of nods. So,
Well, I mean, because otherwise, I'll be frank, if I read it, I'm not gonna remember that I needed to change 20.
yeah, then it becomes a very long email subsection. this,
Yeah. And I did that to Mrs. already, so I'm sure she
Yeah.
appreciates it.
And if you, those of you who like really get into Google Docs, if you want to, add comments, and you do an at mention, you at Scott Graves or whatever, and then suddenly I get a ping that brings my attention to something. That's a nudge.
I would say if we're gonna, well, I think that's great to gather comments, just keep in mind that these were written by our attorney. So the policies that are written there are things that we have to abide by, and we are abiding by. So we can't really change the policy. So just keep that in mind as you read it. It's more questions or
Yes,
grammatical
exactly.
issues.
What the governance committee often comes up with is, hey, so we're doing this?
Yeah, they ask me that a lot. So we're really doing that? Yes.
Or how do we do this? Or it's like there was a double word,
Right.
that just didn't get caught or something like along those lines. And actually, they're fascinating reads because as a board, we're not responsible for executing these things, but it is nice to at least to be a little more than passively aware of things that are expected of the administration and teachers. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Susan, for asking about that. So Jolene, you'll help us with that.
I'm gonna figure that out, yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and please actually, let's talk about this because if we give editing authority, edits can be made, and we won't know they're made if they're editors only. We don't want that.
Yeah, I don't want to edit, I just want to comment.
So let's need to look at that.
Lori says you guys will see exactly tracking everything that's been changed.
You can see editing history. Should be able to.
Okay, so we should know exactly what happens.
I would suggest that we don't make changes in the actual document, that you just make suggestions.
Yeah.
Because the changes really need to be made by the governance committee and then brought to you guys. So just keep that in mind. Suggestions, comments, but not actual changes to the document.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and when you're in a document, if you open up one of them, there's the little pencil icon. There's a drop down, and if you have the ability to, there's the drop down menu. You choose the drop down, and then there's a suggestion option, suggesting. That makes it very simple for you to be able to see what you would like to suggest about fixing a typo or whatever. Adding comments is good too if you have questions. We can get you answers to those questions. All right, the next is board required training hours. And we sort of talked about that with the conference that we're about to attend. See, Jolene, I know that you've done a lot of work in making sure we have access to the hours we have. Would you mind just making some comments on that?
Absolutely, sure. So when you're on the board of directors drive, if you go under continuing education training, which I'll have to change it to training because I think that's what we're supposed to call it this one. We're just telling her everybody has their own jargon. So there's board member records. And each of you has a folder in there. And this is where currently the November training certificate is in there. I'm about to add, or you guys can add, can I say that?
Yeah.
For the June training, when you access your certificates, could you please add them to the folder or email them to me and I'll add them to your folder? That way, if there's any question in the future about what training you've completed, we can just access that file and it's all there. Now the training tracker.
That was an action item that came to us from someone who sent that email to us asking us to download our certificates.
Ginger.
That was Ginger. Ginger figured out how you could go in and download your certificate. Did everybody get that email?
Yes, didn't act on it yet. but
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
It's also, like you said, once you have completed their evaluation of the board.
If it's region 10.
Yeah, region, since this is true of the June meeting, out of the November meeting, so you guys don't have to worry about that. But going forward, I think we're gonna always go through region 10, probably, right? And so we'll probably the certificates for the conference, will they also come through?
I don't believe they come through region 10. They come directly from the Charter School Association. So that's not quite the same.
Okay, so we'll figure that out. But you'll notice that each of you has a tracker, and I have a due date. Now I have to, Jessica, I know you came on a different time, and Leslie, you came on a different time. I have to double check. Yours may not be updated as of, when I updated all of these, you just want that. So, but everybody else should have all of your training for last year recorded, in terms of what hours, for everything, which is very specific for our first year. It's not as specific for the next year. So those of you who are on a 2-year commitment, there's 2 years in the tracker. Those on a 3-year, there's 3 years in the tracker. We can always add to that, continue serving another term.
Have additional certificates that aren't here, should we send them, or is it gonna be editable to where we can
You
add them?
should be able to add it, but if you have any trouble, just email it to me. I had to kind of download mine to my computer, and then I had to sort of go around about to add mine.
Yeah, no, I downloaded it, but it wouldn't let me add it.
I'll figure that out. If not,
She
there's people who know.
may need edit capabilities in her folder, but could this be what she needs?
So the hours for the 2021 school year, which those of you that were, except Leslie, were on the board last year, those are the hours that we have to report, and that report is due to TEA in November. And we have to prove that all of you have completed your hours that were requested or required. So the new hours start this month. So anything you do this month is for your 21-22 school year hours. So that's just kind of how it works. We haven't reported yet for last year, but it is due sometime in November.
How many hours do we, at the conference, how many hours is that?
It's, if you go, yes, if you go 3 days, you will get all of your hours for the year.
What day, what's the date on
It's the 27th.
7th, 8th,
27th.
October registry, you get access to.
So if I missed that middle day, I could just watch it virtually.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're gonna make Wednesday, let's see here, but Thursday, Friday.
If we get extra hours, can we like
Carry them over.
next year?
No, I tried. That's a no, but good try, good try.
And that's what happened to me last year, because I was freaking out, I did all my hours, and
And I was like,
then she scheduled this one for everybody.
our thing is due. And Susan had already done all her.
So I'm like,
That's because you're conscious.
no, it was because I was preparing.
Over it.
Conscientious, they blend. All right, let's move to the next one. It's board terms. This is just FYI. Maybe you remember how many years that you're on for the board, or you don't. Because we were all new, they had to choose when we came on. It was 3 and it was 2. So there were staggered terms. There wouldn't be 1 year where, wow, everybody left.
Everybody's off.
Oh, that feels like.
No, let's do that again.
So,
We did put this document in.
yes, if you go back to the meeting documents, you'll see the school board terms. They're listed there for you. It's just visible to you. Jillian, I believe this is stored regularly in a regular
Yes, I also
standard
put a
location.
copy in the board, or the member onboarding termination.
For onboarding and
Yeah, so
termination.
it's the exact same form. Guys in both locations with links. Can I ask the parent rep, we figured out with Drew that August is actually not.
I looked in the Bible. Oh, wait. Again, I'm thinking opposite. Because we thought
June to June, it's June to June. Okay, so
Okay,
Leslie is actually done in June.
Okay, and I'm the one who updated this, and so I did that incorrectly. So it's June, but because we don't have a July meeting, they don't actually begin until August. But the
Expiration.
yeah, I believe,
Yes, so this would be correct, start date within. Just want to make sure that was accurate.
So the parent rep usually starts also, so come to the June meeting.
I don't believe they come to the June meeting because they're voted in June. And so then we don't have a July meeting, and so they don't come until the August meetings, but they actually, their term ends in June.
Okay.
Or the end of May.
I have a compressed time to get that training in.
Yeah.
Okay. And just for clarification, you probably know this, but it says current term expires. And these terms are 3 or they're 2 years. 3, then 2, but there would be, there's the option at that point, right? That's where if someone comes up for consideration, they say, yes, I would like to continue. Or no, I'm opting not to. But it does say what the max term would be. That's my understanding for us, just so you can kind of have record on that. All right, and the next item that actually is an action item is the board code of conduct. So we did this last year as well. This is something that happens, I understand, every year. And so this is something that we're able to send around to us.
Actually, I think it's on your table behind your agenda.
I did have one question about number 1. Is it a typo? The board decisions pertaining to employment of my family members of my family.
Yeah, that is a typo.
This came from the Charter School Association, so I'm not gonna take credit for that.
Okay. Because the family members of my family members are my family members. Right? I kind of went a little cyclical. So, I mean, I'll sign it because it's not inaccurate. I mean,
Yeah, I think that's a little redundant.
it's a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, it's not inaccurate.
What's funny is I read it and
Didn't-
Brothers,
I read it.
sisters, uncles.
Exit former roommate. Yeah.
well, it could be your sister's
Gonna make this.
father-in-law.
Family members of my family members.
Yeah.
It could be your sister's father-in-law.
It exits in that club.
Let's say
For sure.
blood relatives. I don't know.
Yeah.
At any rate, you have board code of conduct in front of you. So please read that while we're here, and we need you to sign it. And then you'll pick it up for
Yeah, leave it with Lori, make sure Lori gets that.
get that for us. So I don't know if we should like have ice cream now or
Party
something.
time.
I'm seeing the audience say, let's move on out. If there's no other comments or questions about the code of conduct, we'll go ahead and I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
We adjourn.
They second that.
A second.
All right, Susan. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right.
Well,
Here we go.
normally there's
Can we
like-
mark the time?
This is our shortest meeting yet.
Yes. So.
I feel like, yes.